Hello, what's up, dear YouTube viewers? We have two more matches remaining at this World Cup, a match for third place and the final match. So in this video, I would like to state my opinion on who would win each of those matches. Now, this is just my opinion and I could easily get it wrong, like I did last time with the semifinals, but I hope that even if I get it wrong, I am at least able to give you some picture of what will happen in the final and what technical strengths does each side has. Again, let's start with the match for third place between England and France. So this time I'm not gonna give you a full 3 reasons for each side, but I will just say my prediction that I do think that France will win because France has an absolutely world class attack with Kylian Mbappe, Michael Olise, Ousmane Dembele, and even on the bench they have players like Bradley Barcola and Ryan Cherky who are absolutely world class. Sure, Spain was able to stop them, but England is nowhere near the level of Spain's defense. I just don't see how players like Dan Burn will stop the attack that France has. So I think that France will win that third place, which means that Dictator will have a gold medal of the World Cup, a silver medal of the World Cup, and a bronze medal of the World Cup. Although I hope that England will win. Okay, now let's start with the final. Now, before we start, I do want to warn you guys, I will be biased in that final and I will be cheering for Spain. Because Argentina has already won it in 2022, and in 2022 I cheered for Argentina because I wanted Messi to win. But now that Messi has already won it once, I think it's time to give other players a chance. Because the World Cup could be a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I think many players deserve a chance. I think it's better for Yamal to take his first World Cup and his teammates than for Messi to take a second World Cup when he already has one. However, I will still try to be objective and give arguments for each side and try to put my biases aside and say the arguments for each side fairly. Okay, now I did ended up getting both of the semi-finals wrong. The game between Spain and France, I think that's less embarrassing because a whole bunch of things didn't go in French way. First of all, they got a penalty, and second of all, the key defender William Saliba was injured. But the Argentina versus England game, I should have gotten better on that one because I honestly didn't expect for England to battle that game. At the end, Thomas Tuchel is partially the one to blame for that because he had a game plan where after England lead 1-0, they were trying to defend the score at all costs instead of trying to attack more, and that was what cost them the game. I'm not trying to say that Thomas Tuchel was a complete failure. At the end, England still did better than in 2022, but at the end, I think Thomas Tuchel still needs to improve some things. And I heard he will be staying for the 2028 campaign for the Euros, and I hope he improves some things there. Okay, now let's go to the final and arguments for each side. We'll start with arguments for Spain. The biggest argument for Spain for me is that they only conceded one goal while playing some really tough opponents, while Argentina conceded 7 goals, while many of the opponents were not as tough as that of Spain. Spain played many teams on their way. Almost every team who they played was a truly world-class team. For example, they played Portugal with the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo and João Neves and Vitinha and Nuno Mendes. Then they played Belgium, who sure are not as good as they were before, but they still have players like Romelu Lukaku, Kevin De Bruyne, Jeremy Doku, all of whom are really good. And then they played France with Kylian Mbappe. So, for me, the fact that Spain played all of those opponents and conceded just one goal is impressive. On the other hand, Argentina conceded a whole 7 goals. Sure, they scored more, but most of their opponents were not as good as that of Spain. I'm not trying to disrespect anyone who Argentina played. Those are definitely solid teams, and I think they can be proud of what they have achieved and how they did their best to hold off Argentina. And they are definitely decently good, but let's be honest, neither of them are as good as the likes of the opponents at Spain. And I think the fact that Argentina conceded 7 goals to those opponents is a little alerting, given that Spain has much better players and a much better squad. So I think this could definitely play against Argentina. I know I said the same for England, but like I said before, at the end, English manager Thomas Tuchel picked the wrong strategy by deciding to keep the score of 1-0 at all costs instead of trying to score another goal. And that was what costed him. I think Spain will not make the same mistake, because we already saw them against France, where even after they scored 1 goal, they did their best and eventually ended up scoring their second. And even almost score a third, but it was disregarded due to offside. So I think Spain will not make the same mistake as England made, and I think it will be hard for Argentina. The second argument in favor of Spain is that Spain has a better bench players than does Argentina. Now look, I know Argentina's starting lineup is really good, but in the final, a lot of it can be decided by bench players who are on the bench. Because the final can last up to 120 minutes, and maybe there will also be penalties, and at this point many of the players are tired, and the substitutions can really decide the whole game. And there, Spain's substitutions are much better than the likes of Argentina. Let's compare by position. For example, imagine if the goalkeepers get injured. Who is on the Spain bench? David Raya, the champion of England with Arsenal, who got the Golden Glove 3 times in a row. And even if he is not fit for some reason, they also got Joan Garcia, who has had a phenomenal season at Barcelona. Who is on Argentina's bench? Herman Rui and Juan Musa. Are they bad goalkeepers? No. But are they as good as David Raya? Absolutely not. Let's be real about this. Same goes for defense. Who is on the bench in Argentina? Gustavo Montiel, who didn't even have the best of season at Sevilla. Who is on the bench in Spain? Alejandro Grimaldo, who had an absolutely phenomenal season at Bayer Leverkusen and earned himself a transfer to Atletico Madrid. Same goes for many other positions. For example, in the midfield, Spain have Pedri on the bench and also many other talented players. So for me, if we compare the benches of the two teams, Spain definitely wins. The third argument in favor of Spain, and the final one, is that the players know each other better. Many of the players play for the same club. A lot of players play together for Barcelona. Yamal, two of the Garcias, Pedri, Gavi. Some players also play together for other clubs. For example, Mikel Marina and Martin Subimendi played for Arsenal together, and before that played for Real Sociedad together. So they know each other very closely. On the other hand, if we compare that to Argentina, not many players play for the same club. Pretty much most of them only meet for when it's time for national team tournament. And in games like that, better chemistry among players and better knowledge of each other can really decide the game. Okay, now what are some arguments in favor of Argentina? First of all, I think one argument for Argentina, the biggest one possibly, is that all of Argentina's players, at least as of right now, are in optimal form. And unfortunately, we cannot say the same about Spain. In Spain, both Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams are not in a good form. Nico Williams hasn't scored a single goal, and Lamine Yamal has only scored one goal in the game against Saudi Arabia. Could they get in better form during the final? In theory, yes, because the final can have a huge motivation, and even players who were not in the form before can try to show off their best selves, like we saw with Nardam Kouamani for France in 2022. But I am speaking about what is as of right now. So as of right now, I think if we compare to the form that say Messi is in to the form that Yamal is in, Messi is much better. And I'm not trying to disrespect Yamal. I think he's still one of the greatest players out there. And I do think he will have a bright future. But I'm just saying that as of right now, at least, he is not in such a good form. And that could really cost Spain. The second argument in favor of Argentina is more experience. Lionel Scaloni has won the World Cup before, and he has also won multiple Copa Americas. On the other hand, Luis de la Fuente has won the Euros before, but hasn't won the World Cup before. I know I said the same argument for the game against France, and Spain didn't win that one, but I think once again here it could play a role too, because even though they got lucky once, doesn't mean they will get lucky for a second time. And the final is a much more pressure game than the semifinal. The players also have more experience on the Argentine side than on the Spanish side. Many of Spain's players didn't even play at the World Cup of 2022 or 2018. Some played in 2022, but at that time they ended up getting eliminated in the round of 16. And experience really matters for the final, so I think this could play against Spain. And finally, the last argument in favor of Argentina is that they are dangerous on counterattacks. You see, Spain is all about controlling the ball and having possession, which is good, but sometimes it doesn't lead to a result. For example, we all saw what happened in the round of 16 game against Morocco last time, when Spain has an absolutely huge number of possession, but they still lost that game. So I think it could absolutely happen here too. Spain will be all about possessing the ball, but then at the end, Argentina will take a moment they have in the counterattack and just barely score. So I think Spain need to be careful not to over-focus on possession and focus on some other areas. Okay, now what is my final verdict? I think this will be a really close match, but at the end I still do think Spain will win, because Spain had played many world-class opponents and beaten all of them, and Argentina struggled even against teams who are worse than Spain and just barely advanced. So I think it will cost them here. Yes, I know, I said the same argument last time against England, but like I said before, England were all focused on keeping that one new scoreline. As a result, because they didn't score more, they ended up losing. I think Spain will not repeat the same mistake, and at the end I think we will see a repetition of what happened last time, where the incumbent world champion, back then it was France, now it's Argentina, advanced to the final, but at the end they ended up losing to another country and a new champion. Like last time it was Argentina, this time I think it will be Spain. I do think the match will be close, maybe it will even go to penalties, but at the end I see Spain winning this World Cup. Now once again, I could end up being wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% positive that Spain will win, but I am saying that I'm leaning a little toward Spain with a percentage rate of 51 to 49 in favor of Spain. Now, is it the final I wanted to see? To be honest with you, no. So I'm gonna try to call FIFA's president Gianni Infantino and ask him to overturn the results to make other teams reach the final, which will disregard completely what I said. Just kidding, of course. I will not do that, but I was just trying to be sarcastic to show the absolute reasoning when Trump overturned Balogun's red card, which I talked about in another video, about how if we could overturn a player's red card, potentially soon we could also get to overturning a match result. But what I'm not kidding about is that this is not the final I wanted to see. I wanted a new World Cup champion. I was hoping maybe for a final, but we'd say Portugal and Netherlands. Well, of course, I was hopeful for the USA to win, but after the USA got eliminated, I was hopeful for a different final. Because the German economists predicted for it to be between Portugal and the Netherlands. I was hoping that maybe that would happen, maybe we would get a new world champion, and I was especially rooting for Portugal, because I wanted Cristiano Ronaldo to win his first World Cup, but unfortunately we didn't see that happening, which is something I will talk about in another video, where I will react to my predictions at the World Cup before it started. I also was hoping that maybe Belgium would end up winning it all after they beat the USA, so that the USA could at least say they lost to a future champion. So yeah, I was hoping for some new World Cup champion to happen. Maybe Belgium, Netherlands, maybe Portugal, maybe Norway, but unfortunately I can't do anything. We get what we get. But in order to focus on the positives, I will say that this final will bring us some positives. For one, it will be a game of Yamal versus Messi, and the thing that is positive about it is that before Lionel Messi was holding baby Lamine Yamal, and now we will see them on the field. I think this is a huge scenario, and even the best filmmakers couldn't have made such a scenario. So that's definitely something interesting. Also, it will be interesting because Spain and Argentina have some history of interrelationship, where Spain colonized Argentina before, so it will be a game of former colonizer versus former colonized country, and we can see if this political message gets on the field, although I obviously hope not. So at the end, this final will be interesting in its own way. So although this is definitely not the final I wanted to, it's still not the worst final we could get. Okay, bye guys. If you like this video, give it a thumb up. If you dislike it, give it a thumb down. Subscribe to my channel and leave comments. Hope you have a good day. Bye guys.